So we're going to open up the floor to questions, and I'm supposed to tell you all that if you have a question, we've got 2 microphones on either side of the room, so you're welcome to make your way to one of those 2 microphones and ask questions. We'll start with you, Jeff.
I think I accidentally pulled this out. 1 second. This is great to hear the other parts of the story. I've talked to Kelly a bunch of times throughout this process, but Kevin, Isabella, this is fantastic. The work that you guys have done to get here is awesome. And I love your story about the person who wanted to go as an engineer and learn from the field, because I did that construction inspection for 3 years during college, and just learning how things are built, how decisions are made on the job site, things that you can't see on a piece of paper in a CAD drawing, that how things are really done. It's super valuable, and I know a bunch of people that have gone through that. So Kelly, a question I had for you, you kind of touched on it when this whole thing started. These things that you built, the 20 days straight of attendance, so great example, but the apprenticeships, the certificates, the training, the OSHA. When you first started, did you meet with Sargent? Did you meet with the industry people and say, what are you looking for? What would someone coming forward with that you would be immediately ready to hire? How did you get to that conversation?
That's a great question. So I will give a head nod to those of you who know Matt Marks, who was my predecessor at AGC. He had actually already started putting together the concept of what this might look like. And then I also had my own experience as a leader, an executive level trainer within the construction industry. So the combination of sort of his roadmap that he left me, and then my own experience, those are things I knew that employers needed, regardless of what students were going to build in the future. They all needed OSHA training, whether you're building a bridge or you're building a wind farm or you're going to build a building, doesn't matter. You have to have safety. And I know that we needed first aid and CPR, but I'm going to be very clear about that. You need CPR and first aid that is taught by a construction professional. The programs that are taught by the American Red Cross that are generic are not solid enough for the things that happen on a construction site or might happen on construction sites. So we really looked at how do we refine this to make sure that when these students come out of this class, they can walk up to an employer and that employer knows they have what they need. So it was a combination of personal experience and then what was already put together prior to my coming there. I got the beautiful job of making someone else's dream come to life. So I always have to give a head nod to Matt because he really did start this before he moved on to his next career. Any other questions? Amanda, I do want to ask you a question because I didn't mean to exclude you from our panel discussion, and I'm glad you're back up here. I know you and I have had a lot of discussions about how our programs interact with each other and how we can best serve. And I want to say I love that you have programming for middle schoolers, because that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, is that the earlier you can engage somebody's interest, the better that is. And so can you just like talk a little bit more about what you're doing with the middle schoolers to like engage them in that passion? Because that helps feed this whole system, right? Whether they're coming to us or they're coming to college, middle school's cool. So
yeah, so there's quite a lot of research out about how you need to start engaging youth at that middle school range, really starting around the 5th grade area. And if you lose them, if you are not engaging them 5th through 8th grade, you've pretty much lost them as a potential for a future in any kind of workforce, especially young girls in the STEM fields. You really want to catch them at that middle school. So we provide a lot of hands-on experiences. I am so lucky I get to play with kids as part of my job. It's about 50% of what I do is playing with youth and doing program with them and the educators that support them in traditional settings. And so like with the Maine Summer Transportation Institute, which really is about trying to get these middle schoolers interested in a career in transportation. And some of these kids have never been to an airport, let alone going behind the scenes. They've seen where your luggage goes. I had kids go, I had no idea how far down your luggage dropped from that conveyor belt. And now I know why my mom wants me to wrap everything breakable in my clothes. And to people going, last year we did a really great event with the surveying crew, and at the end of every single day, they're required to do a reflection, and they're supposed to say one thing they learned, something they want to see more of, and areas that they wish were included. And one young person said, I learned I do not want to work in surveying. That was boring.
That is a
And
success though,
It was a
right?
huge success story. They eliminated that, but they had other interests in engineering after that. So that's some of the stuff that we do is really the same thing you're doing with the high schoolers, getting them engaged, seeing what it's like. We're doing that on the side for the middle schools so that they can start exploring that as well.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really exciting. So I want to make sure that we highlighted that. Any other questions before we all leave the stage?
Hi, I have a two-part question for you. First, I asked a similar question last year, but do you see any opportunity to expand the construction opportunities into the communications realm? So photography, video, things that are adjacent to construction but don't immediately impact the actual job site.
I love that you asked that question. I absolutely do. I think when we come to a job site visit, when we visit a company, we ask that company to talk about all of the careers that are available within their organization. And sometimes that means finance. Sometimes that means marketing. Sometimes that means risk management. I'm actually working with a team right now on a safety apprenticeship program. And so we're looking at any role that is within a construction organization that is apprenticeable, regardless of how it impacts construction, because all of those people are going to be needed for the future. So absolutely, yes.
And part two, how can contractors or folks in the room get involved with this, get their companies or schools involved?
Yeah, wonderful question. Anybody can reach out to me at any time. So I from now until forever, that's the easiest answer, will have a one-on-one conversation with anybody that's interested in being involved with us to have a conversation about what our requirements are. We do have some requirements for participation for contractors, and that helps maintain the integrity of the program. So what I will say is not every contractor in the state has the opportunity to meet these students. There is a certain vetting process that we go through in order to make sure that it's a safe environment, that it's a place where students will be able to continue to grow. So if anyone's interested in learning more about that, I'm happy to have a secondary conversation. Schools, just shoot me an email. We'll have a conversation to see if it's a fit.
Hi, I loved the presentation, and because I really believe that it's not the kids' job to tell the parents who they are. It's the parents' job to learn who the kid is. I just wanted to know, like, because you learned so much in the 3-4 years that you've been doing this program, is there something that you would, if you were to start a new program in a different state or a different community, what are the lessons learned that you've done in the 3-4 years that you've done this program? And then I had another question, but yeah.
Maybe it'll come to you. There are definitely some lessons learned. And what I will tell you, and this is just part of who I am as a human, but also part of this program, we've never got it 100% right. And every year we've modified something slightly. I'll give you a perfect example. The way we accepted students in year one and the way we accept students when you have 500 kids applying are not the same, right? The first year, we showed up on the first day and Kevin and I were like, oh, we don't have enough kids. And he told his kids, if you have friends, bring them back tomorrow. And that's how we filled the room. That's not what we do today, right? Today, we have a fully developed software by which we accept applications, evaluate applications, and select the best students for the program. So that's just one of those things, right? As we grow, we're always changing and refining the way things work. And so that'll be a forever process for us.
And then I remember my other question. I might have missed this at the beginning of your presentation, but I know that there are federal programs like WIOA.
Yes.
How is the funding work for?
That's a great question. So we have what's called braided funding for our program. So some of our funding, some of our staff is supported by a transportation innovation grant with the Maine DOT and Federal Highway. We have some support from the Governor's Energy Office through the Clean Energy Partnership. And then we have funding from the Maine Department of Labor. We just received some funding from Northern Border Regional Commission. So I'm always looking for funding opportunities that meet the program that we're doing to be able to continue to perpetuate the process. The student stipends, though, are actually WIOA funded. So we utilize that assessment process to pay the student wages for the program.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Brian Carter. I work in finance for the Transportation Infrastructure Durability Center, and I'm also a mom of 3 girls. I am a huge proponent of getting them into the trades when they get old enough. The oldest one is 12 right now, so she's not quite there. But I know there's a big push to get more women into
Yes.
those types of fields. Have you seen a little bit more traction gained with that in
Mhm.
recent years, or is it still kind of like something that you're working to overcome?
I mean, I think there are some reasons that women don't naturally gravitate towards the trades, right? And they're not necessarily the ones that immediately come to mind. One of them is if you think about the lifespan, a lot of times women think about not wanting to be away from home for their entire career, or extended periods of travel, or the long work hours if you're a mom, or there's a lot of things. I would say a lot of those are both the same for maybe a single mom or a single dad, right? So they're not necessarily always female focused. What I'm seeing is students like Isabella finding a passion, and it doesn't matter if you're a female or not. And so we are seeing, if you look at construction as a whole, there's about an 11% representation of women in construction. Our programs are more like 30 to 35%. So we have a much higher representation of women in our programs. So seeing a lot of younger women finding interest. And the other thing I'm seeing, and I don't know if you feel this way, Isabella, but it's an opportunity to travel. It's an opportunity to build your own life. It's an opportunity to do something a little bit different if it's the right fit for you. Do you feel that way?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I do.
Thank you all first for sharing your stories. One thing this conference is about is new innovative, things like composite materials. We're going to hear about autonomous vehicles and new technologies. I'm wondering, within these programs that you have, and probably Amanda does something closer to this, but
Yeah.
the new technologies and any of that attracting the students to different jobs, like use of drones or GIS and all that.
I think that's a really interesting question. I am finding that a lot of the new technology is very attractive to students, right? Because young people understand technology, frankly, better than I do most of the time. And so they are getting to see what is really in use already for new technology when they visit these job sites. It's really fun when they get to see what it looks like, when they get to see sort of that auto surveying equipment, or they get to see an equipment that's telling you what the grade is, like from inside the equipment, right? Those kinds of things are definitely attractive to youth. They don't know that it exists when they come into the program, but they get the opportunity to see it. I will say we also, one of the things I didn't talk about today is we're using simulated equipment operation for cranes and heavy equipment as a way to engage students too. Because frankly, if you're really good at playing video games, you can learn. I'm going to say this out loud in front of all of you, but we did teach an individual to operate a crane in 8 hours on a simulator. Like taught them well enough to pass an NCCEO nationally certified exam in 8 hours on a simulator. Now, I'm not suggesting that I want them moving something in a busy city, but we did teach them well enough that they could work in a yard, right? That they could go from that simulated experience into real life. That's attractive to students. Amanda, I am going to defer to you to answer some of this because I think you do a lot of that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, so actually in the simulator world is really technology allowing simulators to be as realistic as they are has been super fun. Maine Motor Transit Authority has that new simulator where you learn how to drive an 18-wheeler. It wasn't just attractive to these kids who, by the way, some of them got 100% scores, when the ones that weren't trying to hit pedestrians. And it was so attractive that on the last day of my summer camp, we have what we call an equipment rodeo, where construction vehicles are brought to campus, 18-wheelers are brought to campus, all of these things so that they know what kind of equipment's used out in the field. And our 18-wheeler drivers, the ones who are already certified, were challenging each other on the simulator in the parking lot to see who could get the better score. And they had middle school students who were beating them in scores who had never, because they do these video game things all the time. But some of these kids were like, I didn't even know this technology existed. Maine Maritime Academy has an amazing simulator set up for learning how to drive boats out in the different harbors, and they got to drive through New York Harbor and crash into the Statue of Liberty.
There's always one, just so you know.
Oh,
There's
they
always
were
one. People
trying
always
to-
try to tip over our crane simulator.
Yeah, trying to ram into each other. Where are you? I'm attacking you. It was like a battleship through simulator. But some of these kids are really excited about being pilots of ships now, or I could drive long haul. I could travel across the US. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it is exciting to see students attracted by technology.
Yeah, great. I was gonna ask, I know you focus on apprenticeship programs. Is there anything about truck driving, commercial driver license stuff that's involved in this? Because I know that truck driving in general for construction, whether it's dirt work, paving, or whether it's a plow truck driving, is such a huge part of transportation industry. So I was wondering how that plays into the
Yeah,
program.
that's a great question. So AGC does not offer CDL training. Maine Motor Transport does have some opportunities for scholarships towards that type of programming. For us, to put this all in context, one of the things I didn't say at the beginning is that my job, as it's written in my job description, is to support the construction industry and the members of AGC Maine, right? It's obviously become a lot more than that over the last 3 years. So I'm always looking at what's not already available somewhere else. So some of our apprenticeship programs do include CDL, but a lot of our companies are now starting to do their own training. They're starting to do their own internal training. Or I view my job as connecting them with funding to help their employees or their apprentices attend training elsewhere that's already existing. So we're working to support existing programs versus developing our own. I think we might have answered all the questions. You guys, it's so much better to talk to you in the morning instead of after lunch on the second day. This is so much more fun. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you, Isabella, for leaving work this morning. Sargent let her come here this morning. She does have to go back to work. So before we leave the stage, I just want to ask you all to give her a big round of applause for being here.